What is going on, everybody? It is the Going Over Big Time podcast. I am Mike Charlotte, once again joined by my co-host Alan the Cantastic, and we are back today to talk about some hot topics in the world of wrestling, specifically in WWE. And Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we could probably unofficially title this episode Ronnie Killing Kayfabe. That's just my
Mm-hmm.
take on the whole now former R-Truth / Ron Killing situation that kind of blew up in the past couple of weeks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what what turned out to be what was supposed to be a routine contract expiration turned into a bit of a groundswell of fan reaction in the WWE universe that prompted the
Mm-hmm.
WWE to do something very unfamiliar. They acquiesced to what the fans wanted and they brought back Mr. Ron Killings, formerly known as R-Truth, after a week when he was basically let go after 17 years with the company, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ron Truth Killings is 53
Yeah.
years old. Let's
So.
remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No. Yeah. I was just
Yes.
saying.
So
Yeah.
he first debuted in wrestling in 1999. That's how
Oh
long
yeah.
he's been around.
I remember
Uh,
that time. He was.
um,
They called him K Quick back in the day, and he was
yes,
tagging with
and
Road
he
Dogg Jesse James.
yes, and after that stint did not go great, they both ended up in TNA, where they were in a group called Three Live Crew with Conan.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then R-Truth, Ron Killings would spend a good couple of years in TNA, winning the NWA World Championship, something nobody would have thought he would ever do.
Mhm.
Um, and then coming back to WWE as the R-Truth character and just sticking with that character for 17 straight years. And of course,
I yeah,
it's
and
gone through evolutions, of
yes,
course.
but it's been consistent. He's always been like he's always been R-Truth. There was a time when he kind of turned heel, but even then he
Mhm.
was still like a bit of a funny guy. And like
Yeah,
all
and
the
he's had the same theme song the entire time.
except one time when he did this weird one with Carmella when he was like something about the crunk and knuckle up, blow the
Yeah.
roof off. Yeah, he changed it like very briefly.
So
But
he has
yeah,
changed the lyrics. So What's Up has essentially been his theme song throughout this run of 17 years, but he's changed the lyrics a bunch. Um, but yes, so of course, R-Truth is a very well liked man, character, wrestler, and of course, as we mentioned, he's gone through a lot of evolutions in this WWE run. And most notably, as you mentioned, he turned heel in 2011, and he was doing so. He feuded with John Cena back then,
hmm
and was doing a character who didn't care about wrestling. He was smoking on screen. He was he got a WWE title shot in 2011, something nobody saw coming at
I mean,
all.
I remember him dressing up in a Confederate soldier costume and
Yeah.
in a segment with Vince McMahon and Steve Austin. But
Yes.
yes, he did get a title shot in Washington D.C., I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And during that run as well, he would team with the Miz for the first time,
Yes.
and they would have one of the worst Survivor Series main events ever, teaming against The Rock and John Cena. This, of
If you
course,
yeah, how the hell do you have a bad match against The Rock and John Cena?
was done to have The Rock do something in the build to the once in a lifetime that was not once in a lifetime match.
Okay.
Um, But R-Truth and The Miz were doing this gimmick where they were fed up with the company and getting thrown out. And Triple H was like first showing his executive pull during this time. And R-Truth and The Miz would, get thrown out of the shows a lot.
Ironically, yeah, they did a bit where they were both like fired on screen and were like physically removed from the building on Triple H's orders.
And then, out of nowhere, in the middle of this, R-Truth started talking to nobody.
Little Jimmy!
And went in this other direction that was very obviously not for me.
You know, I sorry to interrupt. I kind of remember how this started. He was like yelling at a father with his kid and then proceeded to take the man's soda and throw it back in his face. And then he starts recounting the story a week later saying, I'm sorry to Big Jimmy. I'm sorry to Little Jimmy, referring to the child. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, turned it into, and it just kind of turned into a thing with him. He was talking to Little Jimmy, who's his invisible friend.
Yes. So he would use that for a long time, for like at least 3 years, I think. And then after that, he settled into this role that he would use for pretty much the remainder of his run until the main reason that we're talking about this, where he's just stupid. And he would do all these stupid things, like bring a ladder in the ring during the Rumble, or ask for a tag during the Rumble,
and enter himself in the Women's Royal Rumble.
Or get people's names wrong and think that there's somebody else. And again, this is during the time where this was not for me. Because I like funny in wrestling, but I do not like stupid funny in wrestling. This is stupid funny. And R-Truth blocked me because of this.
Yes.
on Twitter.
I don't think you were talking to him directly. You were referring to something he did that just referenced him, and you didn't like it for obvious reasons that you just stated.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes.
Well, look, man. I mean, you reap what you sow, and like,
of course,
man's entitled to their opinion and who they choose to allow to see their content online.
And I'm not complaining about it. I like R-Truth as a person. I like R-Truth as a wrestler.
Well, so does everyone else, apparently, based on what we're talking about. That universally loved man.
But that character just was not for me. But so he went through a period where he was kind of just there and kind of just appearing in things randomly, trying to pop people like Brock Lesnar. And,
yes, that was very memorable.
Yes.
And where basically R-Truth declared himself for the Royal Rumble after Brock Lesnar, while as Universal Champion, entered the Royal Rumble. And R-Truth comes out, mistakenly believed that Paul Heyman was the one entering the Royal Rumble. And then after Mr. Heyman corrected him and said that it was Brock that's going to be in the Rumble along with Truth then, for the first time in history, undeclared himself for the Rumble.
Yes.
And then, even Brock Lesnar laughed at that one.
Even in the last 2 years, he was convinced that Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano were Shawn Michaels and Triple H. And he was convinced that Triple H and Shawn Michaels were Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah, but that cannot possibly top off his belief that he was part of the Judgment Day. And that probably ran on a bit longer than I would have preferred.
Yes,
but that did culminate in an actual thing with him and The Miz reuniting as
Mhm.
Awesome Truth winning the tag team titles at WrestleMania.
Probably one of my least favorite things in the world.
But the benefit was that they finally found a way to split up the tag titles at that point, because for the longest
Yes.
time it was like the unified world tag team titles for both brands,
Mhm.
and it was just really confusing and
Yes.
lazy booking.
So they get a not great title run
Yeah.
where they just lose it like in their second defense. And then Miz turns on him again.
Mhm. But and the turn was so odd. It didn't seem, even Truth at first was, back on the trend where he doesn't know what's going on. He
Yeah,
like
well, and there lies the problem for me, where like that stuff was getting tired because it would just be the same thing every single week. Oh, Judgment Day hates you. Why are you here? Stop showing up. You're not in the Judgment Day. Oh, you and Miz are not friends anymore. Miz doesn't like you anymore. To the point where he would be in matches teaming with somebody else and think that he was going to tag the Judgment Day or tag the Miz when he wasn't on their team. It was stuff like that like I get why it was happening and I get that people thought it was funny and that's great. But it's dumb. Very, very dumb. And after all of that happened, he kind of just settled back into just doing that all the time and not being in storylines at all. And then John Cena comes back. And R-Truth, who in the past hated John Cena in real life. Um but of course they reconciled. But starts doing this angle, well, not really an angle, just starts doing this part of his character where he wants to be just like John Cena. And John Cena is his childhood hero, even though he is 7 years older than him. Again, another thing that I am not a fan of because it was too repetitive and just constant. But once John Cena turns heel and John Cena is around more frequently, R-Truth thinks that John Cena is going to accept him as his friend and number one fan. Of course, before John Cena turned heel, John Cena actually teamed with R-Truth and The Miz that one time.
Yes.
But and then R-Truth started doing John Cena's moves. And again, once John Cena turned heel, R-Truth thought that John Cena would have a change of heart because of R-Truth, because R-Truth cared about him so much. Then comes this Saturday night's main event match. A non-title match.
Wait, did you skip the part? Did you skip the part where there was the press conference? I think it was
yeah. I
was it?
skipped the Randy Orton stuff.
Yeah, it was
So
after Backlash. Cena
Randy
successfully
Orton,
defended against Orton in his hometown.
well,
Cena comes out on top.
even before that, in the build, R-Truth is telling Randy Orton that he's not going to beat John Cena because John Cena is the best and he's his hero and he'll do anything for John Cena. Even to the point where he interferes in the match in John Cena's favor. And then after the match, shows up in the press conference that John Cena is doing, and John Cena puts him through a table in front of press. And R-Truth still doesn't get that John Cena doesn't want to be his friend. But they schedule a match at Saturday night's main event, a non-title match in the middle of the show. And John Cena kills him. R-Truth maybe got in like one move. John Cena kills him. And then we don't see him until like 2 SmackDowns after that, where he just gets in the face of JC Mateo, of all people, and says he doesn't like it. And they have a match. And that is, at that point, the last time we see R-Truth before he announces himself on Twitter that his contract was not being renewed and that he would be released upon its expiration.
Which apparently was almost like one day after he tweeted that.
Yeah. And as soon as that tweet went out, we had people thinking it was a joke, thinking he was working, thinking that he's only doing this to get people to think he's fired and he's going to show up and do something. There would be multiple reports following this tweet that it was real, that he was being let go after his contract expired because it was looked at as he's getting up there in age, and there's probably not much more that they're going to do with him going forward. In the coming days, they would also do the same thing with Carlito, and who was the other one? There was another one after that.
I am trying to remember. I feel
there
like there was somebody.
There was somebody right after Carlito, I think.
Let me take a look here. Let's see. That was back on June 2nd. Carlito confirms he's being fired, or his contract was not being renewed. Let's see.
All right. It doesn't.
I am not aware at this point.
Maybe I'm misremembering, but I could have sworn there was somebody after Carlito. So anyway, an outpouring of support happens, which rightfully so. And again, even though like his recent years in his character work was not for me, I can understand completely the kind of person that R-Truth Ron Killings is. I can understand the kind of person he was to the people he worked with and everything like that. I'm not saying that he's a bad person or a bad wrestler at all. I just didn't care for his character in the last couple of years. That's just my opinion. But yeah, everybody and their mother that works for WWE except Logan Paul showed support for Ron Killings to the point where chants were starting to take over the shows, and John Cena was using those chants as not to address R-Truth, but to address himself and the stuff that him and Logan Paul were talking about. And so we get literally, as you mentioned at the top, 1 week after.
Yeah, but by the way, the chants permeated. The chants permeated beyond WWE. They were on Raw, they were on SmackDown, they were on NXT, they were even in TNA. I'm watching Impact, TNA Impact. They started doing "We Want Truth" chants at TNA, and frankly, I think that if it was still an option, they wanted him back in TNA, and I think there was rumblings that TNA was interested in picking him up, if things had turned out differently.
Yes,
and
so
it was that kind of a seismic thing.
In the coming weeks, obviously, there was a lot of reports about it, talking about the outpouring of support, talking about everybody's opinion of Ron Killings, the person. And Money in the Bank comes around, and still getting R-Truth chants. We want truth, specifically during the main event.
Yeah,
and in the middle of this very pointless tag match, pitting John Cena and Logan Paul against Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso.
Mm-hmm.
John Cena looks like he is about to secure the victory after once again hitting Cody with the belt. And a hooded figure enters the ring and beats the shit out of John Cena. And then hits him with the belt. And it is revealed to be R-Truth. And the building goes crazy.
Yes.
Like, absolutely crazy. And
you had Michael Cole. You had Michael Cole completely ignoring the "We Want Truth" chants to when it was revealed that it was him. Suddenly starts shouting, "We want truth! We want truth! He's back!
Yeah.
He's back!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then Cody Rhodes wins the match. And Monday on Raw, following that show, Ron Killing comes out after a Becky promo where Bayley returned from injury. And
also on social media, they started advertising the new shirt for Ron Killings, not R-Truth.
Well, yes.
But
even before the promo on Raw, the reports were coming out that he was going to be going by Ron Killings.
Right.
And people were curious about that as well. And then he does this promo and basically says that the truth set him free. He's in control now, and R-Truth is no more. There is only Ron Killings, and he's gonna go out the way he wants to go out, and nobody's gonna tell him otherwise. And then, for some reason, I guess to distinguish the fact that he is no longer R-Truth, he is now Ron Killings.
Yes.
He cuts off his hair.
He cut off the braids, which he had them tied like in 3 separate places.
Yep.
For the obvious purpose, it was easier to cut them off and more safely. So now he looks like a black Minoru Suzuki.
Well, during that point he did. Now he has a shaved.
Now he shaved the head a bit. Yeah,
he's got more of a shaved head with a design.
Yeah, but going back. I mean, I don't know if you were gonna go into this, but the backstory of this apparently was after he was announced his contract was expiring, and this outpouring from fans, other wrestlers, every sort of wrestling person out there. It was revealed that WWE tried to reach out to Ron on numerous occasions, and he just wasn't picking up the phone. It got to the point and then Nick Khan, not Tony, Nick Khan, the president of WWE, had to call Ron Killings directly himself and to negotiate a new contract or negotiate new terms.
So, and it was later reported that he was in talks with a lot of different companies, and that his own son wrote online that it was not a work. And there is still people who think it was a work. Still to this day, people that think it was a work.
It is I mean, you can understand the instinctive reaction. Like, we just popped in on nowhere, and then you wonder, did they just like play us off for fools for a week? Because like he's back, so what the hell happened, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of. I mean, in this day and age, we all like the shroud of kayfabe has been like kind of like pulled away, and it's down, and everybody knows what's going on all the time because you've got guys like Fightful and reporting stuff like this all the time. And then once in a while, sometimes a surprise happens, and the surprise was at Money in the Bank when he came back. But now and then people were like, "Oh, come on, is this like?" But then logically, you think about it, it was like, you really think that the World Wrestling Entertainment spent a week basically self-inflicted damage control on themselves and fooled an entire locker room, staff, and literally 99% of the company just for a wrestling angle.
Yeah.
It is a
And
bit
yeah,
far fetched now that you think about it.
of course. And you have
Yeah.
to think about that from like not even from a business perspective, but from a personal perspective to the locker room. If they were working the entire locker room about one of the most beloved people in the entire locker room getting fired, that's bad will.
It's like so. Notwithstanding all the comedic stuff that you don't like about R-Truth, yes, the man is universally loved backstage. He's a locker room leader, right? It's
Yeah.
not on the tier
He's
of
a
Roman
veteran.
Reigns.
He's a veteran. Yeah.
Veteran. It's like on the tier of like Roman Reigns and the Undertaker. So the
Yeah.
equivalent would be if they fired the Undertaker in the same manner. It'd be like the same kind of thing happening. That's literally what it is. And you're telling me you work that entire group of people that with all the different personalities and different ways people would react to this kind of thing. It's a little would take a level of insane creativity and
Yeah.
discreetness and secrecy that you're right, it would like blow a hole in morale basically and trust that
Yes.
would
And
be very hard to repair.
unfortunately, in the process of all of that, I mean, we kind of skipped this, but it's relevant. Triple H, who has proven time and time again that he is horrible at press, absolutely horrible at press, says in the post Money in the Bank press conference that it was part of the show.
Part of the show, guys. Part of the show, brothers. I'm like, no, not this time.
And
You got played by a guy you didn't think was gonna amount to anything, and
yeah,
now you're in damage control, and now you're forced to find something for him to
and
do
and it
that's
was
not
later
part of the plan.
reported and it was later reported that he personally chose to release R-Truth.
Ugh.
And for him to say that is crazy because we know that it's not part of the show. He was fired for real. So for you to say that is
Yeah, like don't treat us as
personally,
idiots. Like we all
yeah,
know. Like
you're
we spent a
blatantly,
week. We spent a week knowing this, and then you come up on the Saturday and tell us, "Oh, it was part of the plan."
yeah,
What plan? There was no fucking plan.
yeah, you're blatantly telling the press that you think your audience is stupid when you say
Oh,
stuff like that. And that is not okay to to blatantly admit on camera in front of press that you think your audience is stupid. And he has no reason to be this bad at press. Like just say we rectified a mistake and we're going to see where it goes from here. That's it. It's
yeah.
not that hard.
I
We
mean,
rectified a mistake.
if you remember several months ago, I think it was in the midst of all the I think it was the Vince McMahon allegations still. And like he gave this like I don't know if he gave a response that was like probably
Oh,
as equally
yeah.
as bad. But it just falls along the line of it's like, yeah, he's not good at press. He's not getting good PR advice on how to handle tricky
Well, and
situations. But you know what? I think deep
and
down,
obviously we
psychologically
talked about
speaking,
this in the
yeah,
past when we were
yeah, but in a deeper
yeah.
dive, I think this is because like this is not part of the script for Hunter. He was trying to book something. He's his own bookings, whatever style, whatever you want to say about it. But he has his storylines, locked in. He probably has the main event of night one of WrestleMania 42 at this point booked. I mean, we could talk about it later. Based on what happened with Gunther winning the world heavyweight title back again and Sammy being the king of the ring, but R-Truth was a curveball. R-Truth was not. Ron Killings was not part of the plan. It was not part of anything he wanted to do. So now, because the fans forced him to change, what he has to now think of something for him to do. And I think judging from the photo when Ron came back and Triple H did the finger point, Yeah, there was a mutual look of, I would say, apprehension / disdain.
Hmm.
Did not look like a happy photo. And Hunter looked
Yeah,
like he did not know what the hell am I going to do with this guy now.
yeah, and they need to keep him out of press conferences. Honestly, if you really like, because he doesn't bring anything to them. He shows up and he says things that don't matter, and then he tries to treat the audience like they're idiots. And I mean, we talked about this in the build up to WrestleMania, where he said so many things just in that week alone that were horrible and like was not a good look for WWE. He said that the Royal Rumble winner was not a good wrestler. Like, that's crazy. Like, get Triple H away from the press. He or get him in a class about how to handle the press, because he clearly needs it. Very clearly needs it. But so we're going to see where this
Yeah, we're going to see
new
what.
direction for Ron Killings is going to go. Of course, he has made his presence known. Yeah.
I mean, what I was
He's
going to
made his
say
presence
is,
known
yeah, made his
on
presence
this
known.
week's SmackDown.
Yep. So I was
And
actually thinking
very
after
clearly he's going for John Cena.
So
Yeah.
I was thinking he
Go
was
ahead.
gonna actually. Yeah, sorry. I was thinking after the Raw promo that I was wondering. I was actually wondering what he's gonna do, because like John Cena is always taking on CM Punk at Saudi Arabia, and just as all SmackDown, they're like Cody's still staring him down, Randy's still staring him down, LA Knight's dipping at his heels, and on top of that, yeah, apparently Ron Killing still wants a piece of John Cena. What I would be curious about is how much direction is this based on what Hunter is trying to do with Ron, or is it how much of Ron's own input? Because I think this is, this truly is Ron / Truth's last run, right? And you know,
Mm-hmm.
he signed this new agreement for reasons, and it's my understanding is that he got some stuff on his terms, so we'll see if those terms were met. And yeah, I've been looking at Ron Killings' Twitter after all this stuff happened. Looks like he's been cutting his own new music, some other stuff. He went on a Busted Open radio and like did a bit of a rant. It's almost like that movie Me, Myself, and Irene with Jim Carrey, where he actually posted about that, where there's about a bit of a kind of split personality. You got R-Truth, the nice R-Truth, and then you got Ron Killings.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of sounds like from what Killings himself is saying, it's a little bit of that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
Truth, you've been good, you've been driving a while, but now I'm driving. So,
Yeah.
we'll see what
So
happens.
my obviously I will have concerns because it's WWE.
Yeah, of course.
And WWE does not know how to capitalize on this kind of momentum that was handed to them. This was literally handed to them because it wouldn't have come up on its own if the fans didn't react the way that they did. He wouldn't be here. He would be gone. So they don't know what they're doing right now. I hope that they have an idea, but whenever something like this happens, they always find a way to ruin it. Always. Because this was not their plan. He got over organically.
Organically, yes. So it's like
And
the Daniel Bryan situation.
well, and even a similar situation, Karrion Cross.
Mm,
Karrion Cross is over right now and is not wrestling.
yeah, they don't know what to do except, hey, we have an open spot in the King of the Ring tournament for Fatal 4-Way. Let's just put Jey Uso back in there.
And a lot of people, and this is relevant to the topic at hand, but like a lot of people when Vince was pushed out,
Mm-hmm.
they were like, "Oh, okay, so maybe we're not going to see a lot of these things that were happening before, where people who get over on their own don't get cast aside like Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder got himself over, and Vince McMahon hated that because he didn't get Zack Ryder over, which is stupid. And Triple H doesn't seem like he cares too much that R-Truth got himself over.
I
Ron
don't
Killings.
see in terms of that. Like, I don't think Triple H gets emotionally that upset if someone gets over. I think he might just. I think he feels. I feel like he gets annoyed that he doesn't know now. Oh wait, now in terms of a business plan, now what do I do? You know.
Mm-hmm.
But businessmen, they solve problems. They try to figure shit out, and
Mm-hmm.
he may have to swallow some shit for a bit, but he'll figure something.
Well,
it may not be
yeah.
It may not be to the level of like Tony Khan AEW level of booking, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll have to figure out way to churn some flour out of this shit. I mean,
Yeah. But
one
then, but also,
one other ironic thing was that a lot of people were saying is that even Vince didn't think of firing R-Truth when he was still running the company. So I'm just one. I found that comment to be very interesting, and in light of like some wacky rumors about Vince wanting to buy back the company with perhaps Saudi oil money. So, and I'm like, no, that's not happening. But I gave you a bit of
couldn't afford.
yeah,
Vince
but I
couldn't
gave you a bit of
afford to buy WWE back.
But speaking of Saudi oil money, I gave you a bit of a opening there to lean into our next topic.
Yes. All right. So we'll see what's going to happen going forward with Ron Killings. But one of our other topics, I'm sure there will be some other things that we'll discuss a little later, but one of the bigger things to discuss, and this is a big one as far as like, fans so there was a big period during WWE when Vince was still in charge where people were really getting turned off. Like, it was the only place to go, and it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, this is during like the 2011, 2012 era of WWE. Then CM Punk, who Vince did not care for, got over organically. And he was undeniable to the point where he became WWE champion at Money in the Bank and walked out with the belt and became one of the most popular people in the world just on that moment alone. And of course, we all know about how he left, came back, and then came back again. So CM Punk has built his career and his fan base around being a very honest person and having opinions about specific things that WWE specifically did and does that he is not a fan of. That's how he got to the point that he did, because he was the person in WWE saying these things when nobody else would. That's why he got to the level that he did. That's why there are men crying when he came back the first time. And he had these morals and these beliefs and these ideologies that made people care. And he wanted to be that person in WWE at the time that would let the fans have their say, because Vince wouldn't let them. That's why he was the voice of the voiceless, because in Vince's eyes, the fans' opinion did not matter. Only Vince's opinion mattered. Then CM Punk left because of Vince McMahon. specifically. And took 7 years off and went to AEW. We all know what happened in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back to WWE, and the first thing that he says in a promo on Raw is, well, after the promo's over, he said it off mic, but you could hear it very clearly.
Yeah.
He says, "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money." And that statement would become the catalyst of CM Punk's run as a whole to this point in WWE. Because it's been very clear since that moment, this is not 2011 CM Punk. This is not voice of the voiceless CM Punk. This is CM Punk just being in WWE. And that's it. Nothing else. There's nothing special. And I have said in the past that I've always loved CM Punk. Always been a huge fan of CM Punk. I was one of those people who was very happy when he came back to wrestling in AEW. Because it was the first time he was back in wrestling. It didn't feel special to me when he came back to WWE because he had already come back to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
If he had come back to WWE first, then I think I would have felt a lot differently. But he didn't because of Vince. And the entire time that he was in WWE, and again, this is another big element of the reason why we're talking about this. He went, even before he went to AEW, he was working for Fox, not for WWE, but he was talking about WWE. And somewhere in between that and going to AEW, he became very vocal about WWE going to Saudi Arabia. Very vocal. Because that's what CM Punk did. That's what CM Punk, at the time, that's what CM Punk does. He gets very vocal about things he does not agree with. That's why when he was in AEW, he used to wear a lot of shirts depicting his opinions about social subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very adamant before coming back to WWE that he could not be paid $1 billion to go to Saudi Arabia. Ever. And that is something that you should, you look at it and like, okay, CM Punk has always been this very opinionated person, always been very outspoken, always tried to be the guy that would say the things that the fans needed to hear. So when WWE was still working with Fox, The Miz was on WWE Backstage, which was their Fox post-show thing that they were doing. And he was talking about going to Saudi Arabia. And CM Punk quote tweeted this tweet and said, "Go suck a blood money covered dick."
See, that's the problem with like these very blatantly clear statements, right? You don't know, one day it will come back and bite you on the ass.
Exactly. So even before we get to the main focus of this topic, there's been a lot of moments since CM Punk has been back where it's very clear that it doesn't seem like he cares. It doesn't seem like he wants to be the person that fans want him to be anymore. It's very clear that he's just there to get the paycheck, and he doesn't care about the fans. That is very obvious. But the main reason why we're even talking about this is because following Money in the Bank, John Cena is doing the same promo that he's been doing every single week since he turned heel, and says that he's beaten everybody and that there's nobody left, and out comes CM Punk. And CM Punk does this promo, which at the time was not a bad promo, but there was a few things in there that were very noticeably not true that he said. He said that he doesn't do anything for the billionaires. He doesn't do anything for the business. He does everything for the fans. That is a blatant lie. And during this promo where he says that he wants to end this reign of terror of John Cena, and he has to become the monster to stop the monster, he wants to challenge John Cena right then and there on that episode of Raw. And of course, John Cena does the heel thing of saying, you have your match, but not tonight. If you want your match, you have to follow me to Saudi Arabia. And you will have your match there. So as soon as this is said, the internet goes into an uproar because of said quote from a few years ago where he said to The Miz on Twitter, go suck a blood money covered dick. So CM Punk does not respond on mic. So we don't really know what he says at the time. But some time passes during the episode of Raw, and the match is announced for Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. One last time, John Cena versus CM Punk for the WWE Championship. And there is a specific section of the internet, and I am part of this section of the internet, who lost all respect for CM Punk the moment that match was announced. Because he's no longer the CM Punk that made me care about wrestling. He's no longer the CM Punk that made people want to care about WWE again. He's no longer the CM Punk that got people back into wrestling when wrestling was really bad in 2009, 2010, 2011. Because WWE was the only place to go. And ROH and TNA were not doing good. This is not that CM Punk anymore. This is a shadow of that CM Punk, a shell of that former CM Punk. Because if he goes to Saudi Arabia, of course, he, again, has not mentioned it at all since that promo. So there's a lot of people, me included, who still think that there's hope that he will not go. Because if he does, then any shroud of respect that he has from that group of people who consider him one of the better wrestlers of that era of WWE because of how he made people care and made people want to care, he will prove that he does not care. Because that statement that he said in the first Raw when he came back to WWE, where he said, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. If he goes to Saudi Arabia, that statement will reign true more than ever before. And he will not be my CM Punk anymore.
So what I guess thinking about this as you said all that stuff, like, wondering if there is a way for Punk to kind of like back out of this, and not in a wrestling way, I guess. Like maybe they do a thing where he gets hurt and he's not able to go to Saudi Arabia for whatever reason, and then John Cena comes out and says, "Yeah, I'm gonna win the match by forfeit because my hypocritical opponent is too cowardly to come here to the great kingdom of Saudi Arabia," and then tying into the previous topic we talked about, here comes Ron Killings wanting his pound of flesh at Cena again. And then we'll get an impromptu match. And based on how we discussed how lame and kind of unimaginative Hunter's booking is, that, John will still win after, Ron has a surprise match with Ron Killings in Saudi Arabia. And then after that, we don't know what to do with the former R-Truth at that point. I don't know. It's just I guess it's just my wishful thinking of somehow giving Punk a way to get out of the Saudi match. But like, like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I understand your sentiments of where you're coming from, and I can respect how emotionally invested this has been for you. I guess I just kind of like accepted that maybe the man is like trying to compromise a bit. He's not 30 something years old when he was 2011 when he was like this, like, still the young guy and just like trying to take on the world. There's some maturity as involved now. Compromise is like maybe just a more sugar, like more tamer word that I would have used. But yeah, I kind of just, when I first heard that statement when he says, "I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money," I think that was when it was first said to me. It was more just alluding to like how in the AEW environment everybody was just like getting along, but you're like, no, not really. I mean, you're all trying to get ahead, you all want your spot, and at the end of the day, that's what the wrestling business is about. And I just thought he was just being more honest with himself when he said that, saying, "I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money." I'm like, yeah, that's what 90% of the people in this locker room want to do at the end of the day. But as again, I mean, to think that he would do the thing and go to Saudi Arabia. I mean, a long time ago, Sami Zayn didn't go to Saudi Arabia. And I think that was because of more geopolitical issues. Sami was Syrian by birth. Saudi Arabia had, animosity towards Syria for years.
Yes.
Certain things have changed now in Syria, and I think Sami took it upon himself to make up for it. He had his pilgrimage to Mecca, which for a Muslim is very important in their culture. So I think he's closed to, or at least reconciled.
And he also, Sami also, because of his heritage, he donates every cent of his paycheck from Saudi shows.
So so the CM Punk thing is very interesting. This CM Punk is representative of like almost every other person who's, appropriates an issue. So it's like, for me, it's almost like, and this is going to sound controversial, it's almost like all the other people around the world who say free Palestine, and they put on that scarf that represents the Palestinian people, even though this is a white professor from Berkeley, for example. I would be curious as to whether Punk donates whatever his pay window or his share for this match to a charity or something as some kind of compromise, as I use that word again. I mean, he'll go there, but whatever revenues he makes off of this appearance should go to like something to benefit the Human Rights Amnesty International, or some human rights nonprofit, or like whatever, victims of orphans of Palestine, whatever.
So I have seen that argument presented, and I think that would help, at least in the image of the CM Punk of old, because that plays a big role in a lot of people's fandom of him
Mm-hmm.
being so open about his beliefs and being so open about the things that he says about certain topics, whether it's wrestling related or not. And yeah, just for like somebody like me who, again, during that period of WWE where we all needed somebody and he became that person, it's just become hard for people like me to understand and accept that he is not that person anymore. And I get that he's, getting up there in age. He's not going to be able to wrestle the way that he could in the past. But the person that he was on screen was reflective or mirrored the person that I needed in that era of wrestling. He was the voice of the voiceless. And during a period where nobody was speaking up for the fans. And now it feels like he's not doing that anymore. And he says that he is. I haven't seen proof, but that's the only thing that is very unfortunate about it to me. I can't just accept unless he shows me, because of the impact that he created is astronomical from a fan base perspective. And yes, his initial return when he came back to AEW was emotional for a lot of people because they never thought he would come back to wrestling as a whole after WWE. And when I think even him going back to WWE played a role in a lot of people's perspective on his character's impact as a person, because he left WWE on a very rocky, shaky situation, and was talking shit about them as early as recently as still being in AEW. And then he just goes back. So I think that even that played a role for people like me specifically, who didn't get emotional when he showed up back in WWE, because I already had my emotional return of him. It was his return to wrestling.
Mm.
It didn't matter that he was coming back to WWE. But then, even also during the initial months of his return, and he was saying that WWE was his home, that's a lie. That is a blatant lie, because we know that it isn't. Because recently, as a couple of months before that return, he was talking shit about WWE. Even in AEW, when he did that promo with MJF, where MJF was talking about the bidding war of 2024, and CM Punk was like, "Oh, go ahead, go and be part of a buy one get one 2-day extravaganza."
Oh man.
And now look at where we are. CM Punk is in that role that he was taunting MJF about. So even that, I think, has played a role in the image of CM Punk, his character, and his just all around personality to people like me who feel the same way about him. It's not just about the wrestling when it comes to CM Punk. He made people care because his words meant something. And now it feels like he's going back on a lot of them. And that is not okay. So
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to see how things unfold here. I mean, if this is indeed John Cena versus CM Punk one last time, um, in a sense, it is a little distasteful to me that it's going to take place in a country that really does not have a great record on human rights or any sort of equality for women. To be honest, of all the places to have Cena v Punk one more time, yeah.
Also, it just bouncing off of that, he's been very vocal about women's rights. Very vocal.
Oh man.
So going to Saudi Arabia while being very vocal about women's rights, it's not okay.
Unless they give the dude like
so
25 minutes uninterrupted platform to like say how he feels about the country, the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I don't think that's happening. You would need the 2011 Punk to be doing that, and you're saying he is no longer around.
And you remember how there was a hostage situation in Saudi Arabia when Vince McMahon just abandoned his roster?
That's when this all started. The Saudi deal.
If he did a promo like that in Saudi Arabia, he would create one of those again. So he's not going to do that. If he goes at all, we'll see. All right. So I think I was going to cap it off there, but I think we need to talk about Jey Uso.
Okay. I mean, what a nice little run for main event Jey Uso as world heavyweight champion.
So let's just think about this in the long term, right? Jey Uso was put in the role that he was put in because he got over.
Mm-hmm.
He got mega over. Everybody's doing doing the Yeet thing, and he became one of the most popular baby faces in all of WWE.
Yeah, and the key is he got over because they planned it that way. It's not a organic thing, although the way they went about it is probably organic. The Yeet
was accidental.
Yeah, Yeet was accidental. They wanted Jey to go over, but they didn't know how. And then suddenly you had this word Yeet, and then suddenly it happened.
Yeet was accidental because him and Cody got drunk during a press conference as tag team champions.
Yeah.
But so and we've touched on this a lot recently, but it's just relevant to the topic at hand, right? Mm-hmm. Jey Uso gets a world title shot against Gunther on a Saturday night's main event. One week before the Royal Rumble, and loses. Then 7 days later, wins the Royal Rumble and challenges Gunther again. So my thinking going into that was, well, obviously Jey is losing because we did this already. Why would you just give him the belt? And that's stupid. And it turns out that I was correct. It was very stupid because he only got the title reign because of how over he got, but there was zero plan. They had absolutely no plan for him as the world champion.
So I want to address one thing. They keep talking about how Gunther's entire run in WWE, 80% of the time, he's had a championship title.
Yeah.
On the face of it, that looks very, accomplished, right? Longest reigning Intercontinental champion, pretty solid reign as world heavyweight champion. But I'm thinking, if you don't know how to book the man without a championship, then what are we doing? Because I remember the night after Mania, or the Monday, the Raw after Mania, Jey comes out with the championship, does a little yeet, does a little thing, and then Sammy and big Jimmy Uso come out, and they just start like celebrating, and they just have this like big rah rally, and they just like make their way back to the ring. And then meanwhile, Gunther's out here. What was the first thing he did? He attacked Michael Cole. He attacked announcers who are not wrestlers, and he gets suspended for a week. And then they put him in a match with a non-wrestler, Pat McAfee, who did surprisingly well.
And now that we have the hindsight of all of that, I am convinced, absolutely convinced, that was done because they had absolutely no idea what to do with Jey or Gunther, with Jey winning the belt. Because it's very clear to me, based on recent events, that was never the plan. So Jey Uso wins the belt.
Has who did he defend the title against? Logan Paul, and then I believe before that Seth Rollins. Yeah, there was a title defense against Seth.
But also
Logan Paul.
So Jey Uso's title reign was 51 days long.
Yep.
Never defended it on a pay-per-view. Not once. He defended it on a Raw and defended it on a Saturday night's main event. That's not a pay-per-view.
Yep.
Never defended it on a pay-per-view. Even more proof that Jey as the champion was never the plan. Because as soon as his match with Logan Paul is announced, Gunther declares that he is challenging the winner on the first Raw after Money in the Bank. And in the build to that, Jey decides, I'm going to go help Cody fight John Cena and Logan Paul for no reason. And Gunther has the perfect promo the week before this match that sums up Jey Uso's title reign. He tells Jey Uso that your focus is not on defending that championship. Your focus is on helping your friend. And that is going to be your downfall when I challenge you for this championship. And that's exactly what happened. Jey Uso's focus was not on being the champion. His focus was on having friends. And now he is no longer the champion.
Yeah, and the other thing that Gunther did was to kind of crystallize this was that segment he did with the I guess the wrap up of Raw with Sam Roberts and Megan Moran, where he talks about, when Jey comes back here with the championship, he's always celebrating with the boys and they all go out and party. When I won the championship, nobody was back here, and that's the way I prefer it, because I'm here to be the champion. I'm here to have matches. I'm here to, I'm fine. I've got family. I've got closer friends, and just, trying to be everybody's friend. That, I don't need to like jump in and help them like beat up Logan Paul when something bad happens. I've got my thing. I'm fine. And so that's really exemplified the difference in approach to the title reign. I guess in hindsight, I think Jey, when he was still Intercontinental Champion, may have lost the belt a little too early. He should have had a longer run with that title to help people get used to the idea that he can be a singles champion his own for a long period of time.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, in between, go help Roman again with like in the bloodline reunion for War Games, sure. And then we'll figure out in 2025 where Jey fits in the grand scheme of things, Maybe, I mean, he's in the King of the Ring tournament now. He probably at this point should have been challenging for his for the World Heavyweight Championship later down this year to have his first title reign. Now that we've gotten used to the fact that he was a solid Intercontinental Champion, but no, it was a flash in the pan IC title reign, really another flash in the pan World Heavyweight title reign, and now it looks like it's going to be a reunion with Big Jim, and the Usos will be back together at some point.
And so, that is indicative of how I have always felt about either Uso being a singles star. They are twins. They are meant to be a tag team. And I will not be convinced otherwise. It's just Jimmy
Yeah,
Uso.
there are teams that are meant to be together. You cannot foresee them splitting up. I
Yeah.
mean, the mega powers, that you could foresee that splitting up. There was
Yeah.
no way that was going to stay together.
And
So it's the Usos, FTR, the
yeah.
inspiration,
Yeah.
for example.
And
But
Jimmy Uso done as a single star?
Yeet.
Can't name a thing, can you? Because he
Yeah.
hasn't done anything. Because he hasn't gotten over. Because they haven't cared enough to get him over. So Jey is no longer World Heavyweight Champion. Gunther is once again champion after only losing it to Jey at Mania for 51 days. And now Gunther is presumably going into a World Heavyweight Championship match at Saturday night's main event in Atlanta against Goldberg.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't think
Bill
of
Goldberg's last match in his hometown of Atlanta against the World Heavyweight Champion Gunther. And to that I say, fuck Bill Goldberg.
Bret Hart would be proud.
I wish Bret Hart would do a run-in during this match just to make it full circle.
I saw somebody online say about Bret Hart, like, wow, they really just don't want him in WWE anymore, do they? and I said, and my response to that was, honestly, they don't deserve his attendance.
Although they are trying to do something with Natty or Natalia, or maybe that was just more Natalia doing stuff on her own. But
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
So we will see, obviously, what is next. But of course, Jey Uso just lost the belt, and there was a mystery entry in the King of the Ring tournament that everybody was wondering, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Ilya? Because we haven't seen Ilya in forever.
Or Cross. We talked about Cross trying to get over.
We talked about Karrion Kross earlier, who's
not only that, here's a more ridiculous idea. Mr. Iguana from AAA, who is
also
apparently
some reason is over.
My understanding is, from what I heard, I don't know that this is true, Mr. Iguana is not that popular in AAA itself, and yet somehow, I guess, with this WWE audience, to your point, because you don't think WWE is a wrestling company anymore, it's an entertainment company, and find him entertaining. To find a guy who paints his face to look like a lizard and has a puppet iguana that seems to be more over than half the women's locker room,
one of the worst ideas I have seen on the internet in the past couple of days, because of how over Mr. Iguana is to have a tag match between Santino and the Cobra against Mr. Iguana and the Iguana.
So, okay, I would like to see that, but in TNA. Don't put this in Raw or don't even put it on main event. I'm not talking about Saturday night main event. I'm talking about main event, the show nobody watches. Don't even put it on that. Stick it in TNA, stick it free on YouTube somewhere, stick it in AAA. I don't care. But I don't know. I feel like this is WWE thinking, oh, this is our Orange Cassidy moment. This is our thing where you find a ridiculous character that somehow will get over.
And I've seen his work. He's a good wrestler.
Yeah.
But the only reason that he's over is because of the puppet.
Yeah, look, I'm not that upset about a puppet, because if you can have a blow-up doll that can wrestle a match with another
of course.
person. So the idea of inanimate objects.
Yoshihiko is a legend. I get it. I understand completely.
But I don't
have anything against Mr. Iguana. I want him to get over. Yeah. I just don't want the reason to be the puppet. I want
I mean, they had Octagon Jr. face Dirty Dom for the IC title at Money in the Bank. So
in a
I
5
mean,
minute
he's a
nothing match.
guy, yeah, but he's a guy who probably would fans would have a like actual wrestling fans would have a more reason to get behind if you're trying to get a AAA star now that you've bought this company,
Yeah,
like over with your audience, right?
yeah.
I mean, of all the people, Mr. like a guy with an iguana. I'm sorry, it's just really funny.
Yeah.
It's not to the level of stupid funny yet, but it's just like
Oh,
okay,
don't
this
worry,
seems
it'll get there. It's WWE.
yeah,
It will get there.
yeah.
But on that note, I think we're gonna call it there. We will see where everything goes in the world of WWE. I do not have high hopes. uh, and let me. So you mentioned I kind of went on a rant earlier on Twitter about
Mhm.
WWE. I do not hate WWE. I want that to be very well known. I do not hate WWE. I just am of the understanding that their show is not for me. They are not making their show for me. So they are going to continue to do things that I think is stupid. And I am not going to be able to get over those things. It's just not going to happen. I cannot do it. I cannot turn it off. I can't.
Well, that's the ironic thing. It's like we tell people watch the wrestling you want to watch, but yet you just don't like what they're doing right now, but yet you can't turn it off.
No,
So
I
I would
can't.
suggest
But also I can't turn off the mechanism in my head that makes me realize that I hate these things. I can't turn that off.
so you might want to seek out the advice of someone who's more qualified than me to talk about these kind of issues bouncing around your mind.
Well,
Because if I was in your shoes, I would probably do that thing, and talk to someone who might understand these kind of things.
yes, I'm going to need a wrestling therapist.
There's got to be one out there somewhere. There's something for everything these
Yes.
days.
So yes, I want WWE to be good, and my issue is that it's very clear to me that they do not care if the show is good. They have sometimes good matches, and that's great. When they have good matches, I acknowledge that they have good matches. But since January specifically, and we have talked about this, it's very clear to me that they don't care if their shows make sense at all.
But
And
in
that
their
is
but in their defense, I think in comparison to Vince McMahon style booking, where you had like a woman throw a pie in another woman's face, and you had zombies during a match to come out, and you spent 20 minutes over the fact that a plus size woman slipped on a puddle of water created by a water gun. I don't see any of that stuff happening anymore.
well,
You know,
I
at
mean
least I mean
I
that's
mean
low hanging
that
fruit, but still.
yes, I mean that's a plus. But the things that like I mentioned, we have tag titles in both divisions that they do not care about at all. We have 3-hour shows that only have 40 minutes of wrestling. We have a world championship that is just there. Just there because John Cena has it. And that's not really going great, is it? John Cena's heel turn?
It is so I mean, to your point, it's another thing where like the plan was disrupted and now they don't know what to do with it. All
Exactly.
because
So,
of The Rock.
like I said, I want to care. But for me to care, they have to care. Make me care. WWE, make me care. You're not going to see this because
So yes, you heard it, WWE. Make Mike care, please.
yes.
Okay.
Please make me care. All right. That's going to do it for us. thank you everybody for joining us once again. Make sure to go to our linktree / going over big time podcast, where you can get every way to listen and watch this podcast, as well as our social medias for ourselves and the podcast itself. And yes, Alan mentioned, watch the wrestling you want to watch. Even though WWE clearly is not the wrestling that I want to watch. I still have it on. It's on my TV right now.
We're streaming SmackDown in the background as we're recording this. So yes.
Yeah, because there's a chance that something might happen that I will like. It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Not on this show.
That's the magic of this. That's the magic of this genre. Even though you might just despise it every week after week, you're always hopeful that something will happen.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's why we're fans of this.
Yes, exactly. Well, and that's why I did not turn WWE off at all from 2000 to 2015. I watched every single show every single week. So, with that, that is going to do it for us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a good one.